how to recover those changes. 12 o'clock to 4 o'clock, I did many changes. Now I want to go back to that 12 o'clock time. I mean to say the same state. Whatever the changes, whatever the content I do have at 12 o'clock, the same file I need now. Any chances, guys? How can we do that?
If you created a save point, there would be a chance you can get to that point.
I'm sorry, I didn't get your question. Your answer. Can you tell me again?
Like if the application, whatever you're doing, if you have a save point, so you can come to that save point.
I'm not sure what is save point. But general, I'm asking in your laptop. Okay, not in real time. Leave it about real time. In your laptop, I did many changes. So how can we recover that? I don't have any back. I'm not sure what is the save point. Any other chances? Can we recover that file? What are the approaches, guys? Maybe let's assume that you itself in that situation, you have to recover that file. What you would do? Anybody? Can you guys respond?
We must be maintaining multiple versions. Otherwise, we cannot recover.
You don't have. That is what my question. You don't have any versions. Leave it about. So in general, in personal life, who will maintain the versions and all? I don't have any backup. That is what my question.
But the
now, how
server will
to
have
recover?
those changes.
I didn't get you. Come again.
The servers will have the changes made on the system, right? So maybe the production environment servers can fetch you the data if you have that set up, maybe.
No. I'm not talking about real-time scenarios. I'm talking about your personal life. So in my laptop, okay, this is just assume that this is my file. Okay, leave it about real time. I'm not talking development QA production. This is my one of the laptop. Okay, here this is the file since morning I'm working. I changed many things. I don't have any backup. Okay, since morning 9 o'clock I'm working on this file. So it has around 1,000 lines. So keep on changing the things. And I saved it multiple times. Now the time is 4 o'clock. But somehow at 4 o'clock, I have now realized it. I need a 12 o'clock file. 12 o'clock, whatever the changes are. By that time, I've seen that file, 12 o'clock. So I was okay, but still I was not satisfied. So I did many changes, but 4 o'clock, I realized it. I need the same file now. 12 o'clock file. What is your approach? I'm talking about your personal life, not related to real time. What is your approach? Is there any chances, guys?
No, we can't change it.
No.
Definitely no. Manually, you have to do that. Step by step. Maybe unless, like if you remember everything, whatever you did. But definitely, it's very hectic task. Yes or no? Since 12 o'clock to 4 o'clock, I did many changes. Now, definitely, it will be very hectic task, guys. You cannot make it. The same, whatever the changes you have, whatever the content you have, you cannot make it. For sure. At least the spaces, maybe different content. Definitely, it would be different. You can get. And that too, you have to do manually. Very, very hectic task. So for itself, you are saying something like this. So in a development, okay, in your real-time scenario, you're a developer. So keep on doing the changes to the code. So let's assume that this is my development server. Okay, one of the development server. Here only my developers logging into this server. How to log in and all I will show tomorrow, guys. Don't worry. How to log into these servers, where we can build these servers. So tomorrow I'll show you that. So today just again overview about our tools. So they will log into these boxes. Here only they used to since morning 9 o'clock, maybe 9:30, whenever they started their today's job. Okay, today's maybe office timings. So they'll start writing the code here only. They would change the files multiple times, same files multiple times. Maybe different new files they will update. Number of times they will do. Every time they won't take the backup. Definitely, it's a very hectic task. Before changing anything, taking backup and all, very, very hectic task. They can't do every time. They cannot take the backups of this data before changing it because they would do many changes, multiple times, multiple files. They would be confusing. So that is where, guys, in previous days, this was the problem. Okay, maybe around 10, 15 years back. If they want to, always they have to take a backup. Before, if something they forgot to take the backup means same copy, same data, same files. Before changing, they should copy it to somewhere. So original and duplicate, both would be there. So if something happened to this, they will recover it from those backup data. But day to day, your size of your data, your development data, your code, your application data will be huge. It's very tough to take a backup every time before changing. Maybe sometimes you may forget that. If you forget, that's it. Again, if you want to revert back, you have to do it manually. So these are the challenges for developers, guys. So that is where GitHub comes into picture. So guys, GitHub is one of the third-party provider. Okay, what it will do, so in that GitHub, what you can do means you can maintain your data there only. GitHub is one of the website, guys, web provider. Okay, once you log into that web provider, you can store your data and you no need to, here what every time your developer will do mean, he will log into this development server, he will connect to this GitHub server. Okay, he'll pull the code to here. Already your repository, those are called as repositories, guys, in GitHub, whatever the data you're maintaining. Okay, repository is nothing but set of code. Okay, my application code in a will be in one repository. So that repository data he will pull every day, and he will do the changes. Okay, maybe he will do like any number of changes. It's up to them. Any file. And finally, once the change is done, they will push back to GitHub again. So every day, this is their work. They can do many times, guys. Every time, they'll pull the code, do modifications. Whenever they saved it, they will save it to here, not only here. Okay, while saving the file, while saving the new code, every time they will push the code into this GitHub only. Why should I do GitHub? Why should I use GitHub means to avoid those challenges, guys. I told you, right? Your data will be always backed up here. It will maintain the versions, file versions. Let's assume that I do have around 20 files here in this repository. So your developer cloned, your developer pulled that code, he modified 3 files. Okay, then saved it. So those 3 files will be having versions now. Here, it will maintain automatically. You don't need to say anything to GitHub. When you commit it, when you save those files here, actually the terminology will be different, guys. We don't say it as save. We'll review just for your understanding purpose. I'm saying it as a saving. So whenever your developer save the files here, the latest changes here, so it will create versions for those changes. So automatically it's happening. You no need to say anything like create backup, create versions and all. So that is the advantage of GitHub, guys. Even after 6 months also, guys, even after 6 months also, I can identify who did what. So and so date, maybe let's assume that today, what is the date, guys? June 28th, 2020. So in your project, your manager or maybe anybody who access to this GitHub repository, they can identify on June 28th, 2020, what Amar did. In which, what are the files Amar modified. Even that file, not only file names, the content also, what exactly he modified also we can find it out after 6 months, after 1 year also. That is the advantage of GitHub, guys. It will always maintain the versionings. It will always maintain the versions and it will track your code. Not only code, guys, you can save any kind of data here. Maybe Java data, .NET, any kind of. You have to create your own repository. You have to. You can save the data there. You can save your documents. Maybe resumes, anything you can. So whatever the maybe programs you are writing, you can save them. Shell script, you can save them. Always, if you do something to that shell script or maybe that program, and saved it in GitHub repository, immediately that will be tracked. Oh, so and so user did. You can see the timings as well. When that file was modified, who modified, what he modified. That is the advantage of GitHub, guys. Always your data will be monitored. Your data will be tracked. The versions will be created. Okay, if something, let's assume that by mistakenly you delete it and you push back to central, this GitHub. Even that also you can recover it, guys, from the previous versions. That is the advantage of GitHub, guys. Very, very, again, easy tool. One of the commonly used DevOps tool. Okay, so every project, even if they are using other tools or not, it doesn't matter. But nowadays they are using GitHub, guys. So there are competitors. So apart from the GitHub, they have GitLab, Bitbucket, SVN, okay, some Git server. All are competitors only. So most cases, most of the times they will use GitHub. So GitHub is a third party provider. So I'll show you how it will be also. Maybe because I do have that GitHub. So it's a free account, guys. Anybody can create it. Something like this. Anybody can create the repositories here. So this is my repository name. Here I maintain my data. See when it was modified, how many changes you did, who did, last commit. So even so what exactly, so 9 months ago, what I did. Yeah, see something, these changes I did. Plus symbol means added, minus symbol means deleted. See these changes I added to my file. 9 months back, what I did, even I haven't done actually. This is not my repository, just I added into my repository. Yeah, this is not my repository as well. Something from Google only I got it. See, 9 months back, what he did, I'm able to see here. So what plus symbol means he added these changes. So that is the advantage, guys. That is the advantage of Git. You can revert it back also at any point of time. See, 7 months back, 7 months back. What he did, I can say that. See, something in this file, he modified these changes. Minus means deleted. Plus means added. So this data he added into that file. I can revert back if required. Okay, so that is what GitHub. So guys, are you clear about GitHub now? What is Git? GitHub are very maybe competitors. All are same commands, guys. If you know GitHub, you can again maintain. You can manage the other stuff also, other competitors also. So guys, any concerns about GitHub? What is GitHub? So I hope you're okay. Good. So again, what are the roles of DevOps admin here in on top of GitHub and all? We'll discuss in our class, not now. Okay, so we don't have that much time now. So what are the roles and responsibility in GitHub, or maybe in all the tools, everything we'll see in step by step. In maybe whenever you discussed about that tool, whenever you're installing, that time we'll see that. What are the responsibilities of your team? Okay, as a DevOps admin. So as of now, GitHub is just to maintain your data. So it will always maintain the tracking your data, who did what, where he did. That is GitHub stuff, guys. So always, nobody is nowadays storing their data on top of their machines. That day-to-day developed data. If it is application data or maybe customer data, they won't store it in GitHub, guys. Don't think that even customer data also they will store in GitHub, because it's the third party vendor. We don't store our customer data here. Only your day-to-day development data you will post here. Or else you can create your own. Yes, tell me. Anybody, guys? Anybody said something? Okay, no problem. So that is what GitHub, guys. You can create your own repositories also. You can create your own servers also. Instead of, maybe some guys definitely they may think, why should I post my office data, my application development data in third party vendor? So GitHub is third party vendor. Some other websites how we are opening. So again, GitHub is also in third party data center. I am storing my data. So some companies won't allow. In that case, in your own server, you can build your maybe GitLab or Git server, and you can use it similar to GitHub. It's up to you. But so GitHub is fine, guys, most of the times. Now Ansible. So Ansible is called as, so here these are called as distributed version control system. Okay, so these all tools are called as distributed version control system. Now the second thing is Ansible. What is Ansible? So this is called as configuration management tool. Okay. So guys, as I told you, in a real time in your organization, there are different environments, like development environment means development servers. So maybe you may maintain these servers in your own data center. Okay, maybe or else in AWS. AWS is one of the third party provider again, cloud provider. So he's maintaining multiple data centers. Guys, data center is nothing but a big building with this hardware. Yesterday I showed the hardware, right? Blade servers. So guys, these are called as blade servers. This totally is called as enclosure. This is what your hardware in real time. If you maintain your own data center, actually you no need to go there. The data center engineer will be there. It will be somewhere. Maybe if it is Indian project, also somewhere in Bangalore, somewhere in Hyderabad. So big building will be there. So in that building, they will maintain this hardware. So here these are the servers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 16 servers will be there in single enclosure. See how big it is. No monitor, no CPU, no keyboard. Only this one only. Storage will come from some other device. So over the network, it will be connected to the storage. So these are the power cables. These are the network cables. See how big configuration it is. Very tough, guys, maintaining own data center. So that's the reason nowadays, most of, even costly also these are. That's the reason most of the organizations, they're going with their own data, AWS, or maybe some of the cloud providers. No need to maintain any hardware. So whatever you are doing, so what you need, overall operating systems you need. Instead of installing here in your own data center, you are installing on top of cloud. Very easy. That to maintenance is very easy. With very less cost you are getting. So the number of operating system, guys, if it is a big project, so obviously your project size will be also, means your number of servers also will be huge. 1,000 servers, 2,000 servers, 5,000 servers, 10,000 servers. It's based on your project. Server is nothing but operating system. Okay, so you have to maintain 10,000 servers, guys, if it is a big project. Hardly 3 to 4 people will be there for DevOps admin. 4 people should maintain 1,000 servers. We don't know when those servers need some maintenance. Maybe your operating system, your application. So different people, different teams, they will ask you different kind of request. Let's assume that I will give you one scenario, guys. So today, maybe Pawan joined in my project as a DevOps admin. So actually, Pawan should have the again his user on top of all 1,000 servers. In 1,000 servers, whoever is already maintaining these servers, again, Amar is the DevOps admin. Okay, so 1,000 servers I do have. Pawan joined today in my project. In 1,000 servers, I have to create a user. If you log into each and every server, maybe let's assume that first I will log into this server. I'll create one user for one user. Again, log into this server, create user, log in here, create user, log in here, create user. So like this, if I do manually, one server, 5 minutes. 1,000 servers, guys. How much time? 5,000 minutes for 1,000 servers. If you continuously work, 5,000 minutes it will take. Again, there are some other ways also. It's out of scope right away. Okay, so if you do manually, 1,000 minutes it will take for you. So, how can I do it? How can I automate that task? It's not automation. How can I simplify that task? Instead of doing manually, there is one DevOps tools, guys. So again, I'll build one more server as a DevOps admin. Here I'll install Ansible. Okay, so Ansible application, one Linux box or Windows box. This is again in AWS or somewhere, wherever my servers are there itself I'll build one application, one operating system. On top of it, one application. So I'll maintain all this information. How many dev servers, how many application servers, how many database servers in dev, QA, production, everything I'll maintain, just information. The IP addresses, guys. The initial setup will take some time, guys. For one-time task. All your server information, even the communication setup also you have to do from here to your all servers. Now onwards, anything, guys. Let's assume that I want to create in all my development QA production servers. You no need to log into them. Simply, I log in here. From here itself, I'll trigger the command. Hardly it will take 10 minutes, guys. Within 10 minutes, I can create a user in all the Linux boxes, all the operating systems. See how easy it is. So actually, if I do manually continuously, if I do 5,000 minutes, it's taking the same work I'm making in 5-10 minutes. See the difference. See the advantage. Not only again creating user, guys. Let's assume that today Pawan left from the company. Okay, so as definitely, guys, then from all the servers you should remove the Pawan user. Again, same thing. I no need to log into each and every server. Simply, I'll log into this Ansible. I'll connect to this Ansible server from my laptop. Here, I'll trigger the command. So I'll say run this command in all the servers. It'll go ahead and trigger that command in all the servers, guys, in the backend. So that Pawan user will be deleted. Not only deletion. So let's assume that you launched around 15, 20 servers, 20 new servers here in development as part of SDLC process. Okay, you want to install different applications, maybe same applications on top of 20 servers. Okay, so maybe your application team given some instructions, what to do, how to do, and all. So in 20 servers, you have to do the same configuration, same setup. Again, if I do one server, that application installation, the setup, settings, and all. So let's assume that 1 hour it's taking for one server. Okay, the same setup I have to do in remaining 20 servers also. So how much time it will take? 20 hours. But here, if you do the same task from here, only writing that comments will take time. Only 1 hour, hardly. Within 1 hour, you will trigger that command. You will write those commands and all instructions here. You will trigger the command. That's it. It will go to that 20 servers and do the application installation, setup, everything for you. So that is the advantage of Ansible, guys. That is the reason it is called as configuration management tool. So we are managing the configuration on top of our environments without logging that too. You're not logging into this server directly. You're logging into this server, with some tool. Okay, from here only you're triggering the command. So what is the advantage here? I'm saving my efforts. I no need to log into each and every server. So in previous days, how they used to do, how the system admins will be there in previous days. They used to again create shell scripts or Python programs for that to do the same thing. So, but why we are using Ansible instead of shell script or Python means, so Ansible is very, very easy, guys. It's one-time setup. You no need to write any code for this. Very easy code, guys. Maybe let me show you one easy language. Anybody can tell that by seeing that itself. It's like general English, guys. Can someone say what I am doing here? Maybe after writing. So guys, can someone guess what is this? This is one command actually. Maybe what I am doing here by running this command. So I'll run this command on top of this number. Anybody can get?
So creating a user.
Exactly. See guys, how simple it is. I'm saying simple in all the servers, run this command. It will go to in all the servers in the backend, will trigger that command. You no need to log into those servers, guys. That is what Ansible. So you are able to save your efforts. Okay, so that is the reason you can do anything, guys. Whatever you are doing manually by logging into each and every server. So without login, you can do from here the same thing. Okay, on multiple servers, so even 10,000 servers also you can manage here from here without login. You can do anything, bulk tasks, bulk number of servers. You want to install application, you want to set up application, you want to create user, uninstall the application. Okay, you want to change some setting on all 1,000 servers. Maybe let's assume that, guys, you want to upgrade your application. So your developer came to you. He has around maybe 200 development servers. So he want to upgrade those applications, whatever the application. And after upgradation, they want to change some settings in all 200 servers. You no need to do manually, guys. Simply come here. So write the commands like this, whatever you are doing manually, and run this from here to there. That's it. In 200 servers, hardly 10 minutes it will take. Those application setup and upgradation and new settings. That is the advantage of Ansible, guys. So maintenance purpose to do bulk task. Okay, so you'll use Ansible. Guys, are you clear about Ansible now? What is the purpose of Ansible? Any doubts?
Just wondering if Ansible will hold all the server information before in hand before executing this command.
Yes, definitely they should have. So that is what I told. You should have information about how many development servers you have. There is a file actually in Ansible. Okay, so before running any command, you have to add all those information like dev information, QA, production, how many application servers, how many database servers. Again, you may have different distributions. What distributions you do, everything. This is one-time task. Okay, for setting up, it will take some time. But once you set up, that's it. You can use the same setup any number of times. Yes, you should have hold this information, this server information here. Then only how can I know that otherwise? If I say all servers, how my Ansible will know that? What is all? It will go to that particular file. It will go to each client, it will connect and it will run this command. No,
Got it.
again, GitHub is different, Shahid. The different GitHub is not related to Ansible. GitHub, just you are storing the data here. It will maintain the version track. But here Ansible is not again managing any data, right? So if you want to do without logging into any server, you will come here and trigger the commands. So let's assume that I'll give you one scenario. Leave it about the real time. Okay, I have around 20 laptops in my home. Okay, my home itself. 20 laptops I do have. I want to maybe install one application on top of all the 20 servers, 20 laptops. If you do manually, definitely it may take 10 minutes each. 10 minutes, then 20 laptops. 200 minutes you have to wait. But if you use Ansible, okay, because you are in the same network, right? So what I will do, I'll take one laptop. On top of it, I will install Ansible application. I'll add all those 20 laptops information in this laptop where Ansible is there. So from here itself, I'll manage my 20 laptops, 20 operating systems. I can install within 10 minutes. That is the advantage of Ansible. But whereas GitHub is not to manage your servers. So GitHub is just to store your data, your application, maybe your development data, where you are doing continuous changes. So anytime, any point of time, you can take the you can revert the changes if not required. If something problem with your code, you can revert back those changes. That is what again GitHub. It's not related to Ansible. Complete different stuff. Okay. So I hope you are clear, Shahid.
So we can use SCCM also, no?
I didn't get you. Come again.
We can use SCCM tool. It's a Microsoft tool, SCCM.
Maybe. So again, there are so many competitors, right? I'm not sure about the tool which you are saying, but might be. I'm not sure. So that's what I told you. Here you have competitors. Maybe you can add that. Are you talking about GitHub or Ansible? Which competitor it is?
It's like the GitHub.
I'm not sure then. What is that tool? I ever heard about that. Actually, since my beginning, my career is starting, so I'm working on Linux distributions only. I'm not sure again what is that tool. Okay, yeah. So that is what Ansible, guys. So I hope you are clear about Ansible. What is Ansible? What is the purpose of Ansible in your project? So you can maintain your project, your servers without login, guys. Bulk task you can make it hardly very simple. That is the advantage of Ansible. Now Docker. So guys, as I told you, you need number of servers in your environment. Thousands of servers. If it is a GitHub, maybe your YouTube project. Just a minute. Something maybe YouTube, Facebook, WhatsApp, Google. These are a huge projects, right? These are the very big projects. So definitely they have to maintain thousands, lakhs of servers. Server is nothing but operating system, guys. So where they will install those operating systems? Definitely they should maintain their own data center. See the data center size, guys. This is one enclosure. Hardly 16 servers you can maintain here. Like this, different racks, different enclosures. Number of enclosures you have to maintain. See, something like this. Very big hardware, guys. Very tough to maintain. Costly also. Okay, the hardware, power backup, network team, system team, again a data center team. This many teams you have to maintain if you maintain your own data center. The project cost will be huge to maintain the servers and all. So that is the reason, guys. Nowadays, most of the organizations are going with AWS. Okay, what is AWS means? AWS is one of the third-party provider, cloud provider. He is like me. Maybe I am maintaining my data centers in different locations. Just assume that in India, in US, in UK, data center means very big building with hardware where I can install operating systems. That is what data center. So I do have India location, maybe in US. UK, Singapore, Canada. So different places I'm maintaining data centers. So I created one easy application, that web interface, web application I created. So now customer can log into that web application and they can create operating system on AWS data centers. So guys, you no need to have your own data center, your own hardware. So simply I can create account in AWS. On top of AWS data, in Mumbai it is there in India. So Mumbai data center is there. I can connect to that Mumbai data center. There I can create operating system remotely. So as I told you, if your project is huge, so your number of operating systems also you have to pay more. So let's assume that guys, I need 1000 servers. 1000 servers I have to pay. 1000 operating system cost I have to pay every month to AWS guys. If it is again more than 1000, 10,000 servers, 1 lakh servers. I have to pay for 1 lakh servers. How many you use? You use that many servers operating system. You have to pay for your vendor. Still, even though I'm not maintaining my hardware, I'm paying for AWS, but very less when compared to your own data center. If you go with AWS, you are paying very less only. Maybe I'll give you the scenarios here. So, own data centers. So that is called as physical servers, guys. Physical servers means your own data centers. So let's assume that you need 1000 servers. Okay, 1000 servers means 16 servers in one enclosure. So how many enclosures I have to maintain, guys? How many enclosures I have to maintain? 16 servers each. So 16 10 100, 1600. Maybe around 70 or 80. Okay, 80 enclosures I have to maintain in my data centers. So each enclosure, just assume that maybe around 30 lakhs. Okay, each enclosure. So not 30 lakhs, not that much it would be. Maybe around 5 lakhs. Okay, 85 is 400 lakhs you have to pay just to purchase the enclosure. And for maintenance, building, data center engineer, system admin, again backup admin, network admin, power admin, this many admins you have to maintain these data centers. Because the procedure is very long to do the stuff. So you have to maintain that many members. So your project cost is huge. Now, later, AWS. Here also 1000 servers I have to maintain. But you don't need to maintain your own data center. Enclosures are not required only for 1000 servers. Maybe each server around just assume that $300 per month. So 1000 means $30,000 you have to pay. Okay, so guys, maybe $3 lakhs per month. So maybe let's take $30 for each server. The assumption, guys, it's not exact figure. Okay, maybe $30,000 you have to pay per month to maintain your project. But hardly 1 or 2 admins are enough. You no need to have data center engineer, backup admin, again system admin, power admin, means maintaining power, network admin. Hardly, because you have very easy functionalities here. If 1 or 2 people can manage all the stuff here. Okay, so you're maintaining your servers with very less cost, guys. Now the next thing is Docker. Why Docker is required again, guys? This is also to build your infrastructure only, your servers only, guys. So I need 1000 servers, right? I no need to build 1000 servers here. What I will do, so let's assume that I need here in development environment around 500 servers, maybe 300 servers, 300 operating system. I no need to build 300 operating systems here, guys. In AWS, hardly I'll build 50 servers. And in each server, again, I will maintain. Logically, I will install the operating system here. In one operating system, again, I'm building multiple operating systems. Logically. So these are called as, again, VMs, guys, kind of VMs, virtual machines. See, in a single system, I'm maintaining 4 systems here. Again, here 5, here 2. So based on your requirement like that. Hardly 50 servers, 50 servers, 50 servers. 150 servers, you can maintain your all infrastructure. So, but logically, again, guys, you're having 1,000 servers only, but not directly in AWS. In AWS, you're maintaining hardly 150 servers. So in each server, again, you're maintaining 5 or 10 servers. That is what Docker, guys. So with the help of Docker, again, I can install operating systems, OS, on top of your machines. Okay, on top of your servers. So here, hardly I will pay for 150 servers. Not more than that. Every month, I will pay only for 150 servers. Not again, because these are logical servers. I no need to pay for them. The Docker is a free of cost, guys. You no need to pay for these servers. You can maintain your servers on top of logically. Okay, that is that one. Maybe I'll give you one more scenario, guys, in your personal life. Let's assume that you have your laptop. I want to install Linux and I want to use Linux and Windows both at a time. Guys, is it possible by default? Anybody? I have only one laptop. I want to use Linux and Windows, both the operating system at the same time. Is it possible, guys?
Yes.
Yes,
So how it is possible?
virtual machine.
No, I'm asking, leave it about virtual machines by default. Without virtual machine, without that concept. Is it possible?
Different users.
Actually, no. We cannot use our laptop to use Windows and Linux at both at the same time. Even 2 Windows also I cannot use it on same time. Simultaneously. I have to purchase one more laptop. So that cost me more. In real time also. 1,000 servers means you have to maintain 1,000 servers, first of all. You have to build 1,000 operating systems in AWS, maybe your own data centers. But if you go with Docker, guys, Docker is one of the virtual concept. In my laptop, just assume that I do have laptop. Here, if I install Docker on top of my laptop on Windows, I can again install multiple operating systems here on top of my Windows itself, around 5 to 10 servers. So within a single laptop, I can maintain 10 operating system. Like Windows, I can maintain, Linux, I can maintain. So you're able to save your cost. Same concept, guys. Docker is also similar to virtual machines, VMware. Okay, so on top of, but what is the difference between VMware and Docker means? VMware is not free of cost, but Docker is free of cost. It has more advantages when compared to VMware, guys. So that is the reason nowadays, most of the organizations, they are going with Docker to reduce the cost. They no need to maintain number of those servers. They no need to pay. If they are going with AWS, so hardly 150 servers they will create on top of AWS. So on top of each server again, they will maintain multiple operating system by installing Docker. So in that way, they can save their cost, guys. So Docker is also, it is called as containerization, guys. Same virtualization maybe. To build infrastructure. So guys, are you clear about Docker now? What is Docker? So Docker is an application. So on top of one operating system, if you install Docker, again you can install multiple operating systems on top of it. Hardly 150 servers are enough. 150 servers you have to pay. 150 or 200. So on top of each server, again, you will install multiple servers, as many as. So you're able to save your cost, guys. You don't need to pay this much for AWS. Hardly 150 servers means maybe I can say so $1,000, maybe just $10,000, or maybe it's not exact figure. Just randomly I'm giving that. So very less cost, guys. So that is the advantage of Docker. Okay, so this is called as infrastructure build tool to build your infrastructure. Again, guys, Kubernetes is also it's advanced Docker, guys. So in Docker, you have some challenges. So, okay, so it is called as advanced Docker. So whatever the challenges you have, this Kubernetes will overcome those challenges. So I'll give you one simple challenge, guys. So as I told you, this is one of the Docker box. Okay, this is one of the Linux box, maybe this main box. On top of it, I created multiple containers again, multiple OS, maybe 5 operating systems again, but Docker OS I created. Now, if this Docker host down, this main host, what will happen? What about the containers, guys? What about the operating systems here? These operating systems? Obviously, these also will be down. Yes or no? Because the main is down. Obviously, let's assume that I have my laptop. On top of my laptop, I install Docker. Again, on top of Docker, I install multiple OS. If I shut down my laptop, what will happen? My Docker also will be down. So this is the challenge, guys. In real time, always your server should be up and running. For any reason, okay, your server, your operating system, your application should be up and running. So guys, have you ever seen that Google is down or maybe Facebook is down? Have you ever seen that, guys? I never seen, because they will use the high availability techniques, guys. Always their applications. So if Google application is down, I cannot access the Google server, guys. So when I open google.com in my laptop, it will go to those production server where that Google application is running. So internally, there are different applications they will run. All together only I'm able to access my google.com. So if one of those application is down, so definitely I cannot access google.com. It will throw server is busy, our server is down, unable to access. Even though you have the internet, it won't go to that server. So they will maintain the high availability techniques, right? Means always their applications will be up and running without down. So that is again, guys, Kubernetes advantage. It always maintain your servers up and running, your Docker servers. So it is called as advanced Docker, I can say. Okay, because whatever the challenges you have in Docker, the Kubernetes will be again resolve those challenges. So without Docker, no Kubernetes. Both are related. Now Docker Swarm is again competitor for Kubernetes, but Kubernetes is most commonly used tool. So that is the reason I'm going with Kubernetes only. Next, Maven. So guys, as I told you, so again, Maven is a build tool, guys. Means what your developer is doing every day. This is developer laptop. Again, this is GitHub. Okay, so your developer every day he will log into this box from your laptop to this development. Okay, again he will pull the code. He will pull whatever the yesterday developed data, everything I'll store it here only, right? He will pull the code over the internet, over the network. He'll do the modification. He'll push the data again here. Push means he will save the data here only. So after pushing the data, after writing the code, updating the code here, again he has to build an application, guys, with that data, because he is writing Java data, .NET code. So you cannot use the data, that code directly. So are we using Java data in my mobile, guys, to install applications? No, right? We're installing the application. So how can I get that application? Again, that is where in one of the server, they will maintain the Maven in one of the Linux box or Windows box. So this data, whenever the developer push the data here, immediately, actually it should go to Maven server, this data. The latest code should go to Maven server. Here they will build the applications. Build application, app build with this latest data. Okay, so maybe it may not be completed code, but still you can build. If syntax is correct, you can build the application, guys. It's a developer tool actually. So we don't need that much details about Maven. Okay, as a DevOps admin, your role is just installing Maven. Okay, and just integrate with your automations. Again, what is automation? I will tell you guys. Now, automation. First, we have to talk about this process first. What they will do manually. Then after we'll come to automation. So as I told you, always your developer will connect to this box. He will write the code. He will pull the code, get the latest code from GitHub to here. He'll do the modification. He will push it. Now onwards, he will log into this server where Maven is running. Here, he will copy the code from, get the code, latest code from here to here. He will build an application. He will run some commands. So he will get some application with this latest code now. Now, he will inform to application guys, hey, I got a new application now, new version. Your application database guys now will copy this application to their servers. Maybe it might be Docker server, maybe it might be direct server. They will copy this application from here to here by running some commands. Again, as I told you, some prerequisites if they have related to this new code, any new settings, any new configuration required. So your application team, database team will run those commands. Then after, they will install this application on top of this Linux box. And they will and they will open that WhatsApp application. For development also, they will have development mobiles. They will open that development application, that mobiles. That component is working or not, they will check. And if that is working, they will inform to developer, hey, this component is fine. So please go ahead with the next component. So again, developer, he will be here. He'll again already you have the latest code here. So he will update the code, do the changes, he will push back. Same again, he will log into this box. He'll copy the code, latest changes to here, build an application with the latest code. Again, inform to application team, database team, they will do the modifications, maybe based on this new change. Again, install, come back to develop. Guys, this is the routine task for your developers, your database team, your application team. So that is where Jenkins comes into picture. So what as a DevOps admin, what you have to do, these kind of routine tasks you will discuss with your team. What exactly they are doing, when they are doing, where they are doing, what are the applications involved here. As I told you, different applications involved here, right? So here development server involved, Maven server involved, again those application server, those database server involved, those names, how to connect to them, how to run these commands, what commands they are running, when they are running, where they are running, those commands I will pick it and I'll document it first. So I'll build one Jenkins server, guys. Okay, I'll install Jenkins application here, maybe on top of one of the Linux box. I'll integrate all these tools, guys. I'll integrate GitHub. I'll integrate Maven. I'll integrate this this application. I'll integrate this database server. Everything here. On top, Jenkins is very intelligent tool, guys. Very, very intelligent tool. You can do anything. You can integrate any application here. Whatever they are doing manually here, whatever the commands they are running here, you can add here those commands and with conditions. So whenever, again guys, you no need to tell to Jenkins, go ahead and run this command manually. So here, whenever this GitHub whenever your developer puts the data into this GitHub, automatically my Jenkins will come to know that, guys. That is one of the advantage here. Your developer no need to go to Jenkins and go ahead and trigger the commands. So developer work is now onwards. Once you set up the Jenkins in your environment, whatever they used to do manually, right? Everything as a DevOps admin, you will put here those commands, those conditions, everything. So now onwards, developer work is just he will log into this box. He will get the latest code. He'll do the changes. He'll upload here. That's it. Remaining immediately, my GitHub or my Jenkins will come to know that something new change happened here. That option is there. You no need to inform. So automatically the remaining task like logging into this server, copy the code from here to here, building an application again in a, copy this application to application server, install that application again, running prerequisites, pre-configuration, everything my Jenkins will take. So that is the reason, guys, it is called as continuous integration, continuous delivery. Continuously, see, it is integrating the latest code with old code and building an application and delivering into this environment. Means installing, delivering is nothing but. So very, very commonly used tool, guys, Jenkins, and very easy to use also. It's GUI. You can open in a website. Okay, with like you can see the options. Very easy options. Very easy to maintain. One-time setup. This is also. As a DevOps admin, you have to set up this Jenkins application. You have to integrate all these commands, all these applications here. Otherwise, integration is nothing but attaching, guys. So attaching to log into these servers, running these commands, I have to give permission, right? I have to again attach these servers, these applications here, so that whenever something need, my Jenkins automatically it will go to respective server, trigger the commands. It doesn't need any permissions later onwards. So in that way, I can reduce my team efforts, guys. I can reduce my project cost. Even so, how project cost will be reduced if you use Jenkins? Because the team members earlier they used to do all this stuff manually. Now no manual effort. So team side will be reduced. Not only this task, guys. In your teams, okay, different teams you are there, right? Maybe application team, database team. They do have different tasks. So all those tasks will take it. Whatever the routine tasks they are doing, we'll write down jobs here. This is one job. These all tasks are called as one job. So one more task, one more job I will take from again your application team data, what they are running manually, what routine task I'll add here. Automatically, whenever the condition passed, automatically my Jenkins will trigger. Again, testing cases also. Those test for test environment also, if there are any routine tasks, I'll add again here job with conditions. Automatically those conditions also will be triggered. You don't need again a manual interfere here. That is again, guys, it's a routine. Again, from development you can use QA, you can use, again in production also you can use this Jenkins for automation. Okay, so that is what Jenkins here. So I hope Maven is done, Jenkins is done. Yeah, now Sonar and Nexus. So guys, these are kind of additional tools. Okay, maybe in your project, maybe previously you may not have these tools, but these are again DevOps tools. Why SonarQube is required? So if I integrate SonarQube, maybe I'll take one more server. Here I'll install Sonar. This installation also you have to do, guys. SonarQube. Why should I install SonarQube means? So every time your developer is writing code. So guys, the web pages, maybe the applications, whatever the code he is writing, I can make it in multiple ways, guys. By using multiple approaches, I can go with multiple approaches while developing. But you have to follow the rules, security rules, guys. Otherwise, what will happen? At some point, maybe your application is working now, even though with unsecure code. But the thing is, later, once you release the product into the market, The customer might be facing issue. So the data, what they are chatting, maybe what they are talking, it might be hacked by someone else because you are not following security rules here. So if you include SonarQube with your Jenkins, with your code here, every time it will check the quality of your code, guys. Actually, SonarQube is one of the third-party provider. If you install SonarQube on top of your Linux box or Windows box and integrate with your Jenkins, always it will verify the quality of your code. It has set of rules already. Industry best practice rules are there. They created already. Okay, you no need to create. Already SonarQube vendor created. So when you install that application, you'll get those rules here. If you integrate here, always whenever the job triggered, it will check the quality of that code, not syntax, guys. If syntax wrong, this application itself cannot be built. It will say syntax wrong. Please use double braces or maybe double quotes somewhere. It will throw error, something like that. But quality is different. Maybe sometimes the combinations, multiple in I don't know Java. Just I'm saying randomly. So some modules you are using in Java. So some combination sometimes might be again not work as expected. Maybe in future there might be chances to hack the data. There might be chances for hacking the data if you use those combinations. So those kind of rules it has. It will always throw an errors, warnings, if such kind of rules you are not following in your code. So for quality purpose, you are using SonarQube, integrating with the Nexus, Jenkins. And now Nexus, one more server, guys. One more operating system. Where my servers are there itself I'll install one more operating system. Then here Nexus I will install. So what is Nexus means, guys? It is a kind of lockup. If you integrate Nexus with your project, what will happen? Every time you're building your application here, right? So those applications you can save here for future purpose. It's not mandatory actually, but whatever the application, the versions you are getting every time here, those version applications you can save it here for future purpose. That is what Nexus. Okay, so guys, these are the DevOps tools which I'm going to cover. And apart from that, Nagios. So what is Nagios means, guys? Very simple. Here, as I told you, number of servers you are managing, thousands of servers if your project is big. So we don't know that at what point of time the issue may arise. Maybe there might be a storage issue. There might be application issue, performance issue, network issue, some maybe compatibility issues. We don't know. We cannot monitor them manually. So there are some third-party tools, guys, like Nagios, HPOV, CloudWatch, Splunk. If you install on top of all your servers, and you will maintain one main server here, Nagios. Here, Nagios server you will maintain, Nagios application. And in all the servers, client application you will maintain. And you will set up the communication between master and clients, all the servers. So you no need to monitor these servers. This main server will monitor all these servers, guys. Only monitoring. It won't do anything. Only some abnormal stuff here. Abnormal messages, abnormal logs, abnormal process is stopped. Application is not running here. Immediately my Nagios will come to know that. It will be notified to the teams. Something so and so this server, some error, some application is not running. Immediately it will be notified to your developer, maybe your application team, maybe your system admin, maybe DevOps admin. So immediately I'll jump onto that server, I'll fix that issue. That is the advantage of Nagios, guys. Monitoring tool, very important in real time. Okay, so next thing is, again, these are applications, guys. No need to talk about this. So we'll talk about these applications in our regular class, not DevOps, that one. So yeah, so this is what our course, whatever the tools I'm going to cover, guys. Apart from that, so guys, any doubts till now? Any tool? Guys, any issues, any concerns? Which tool works? So maybe again, installation part, everything and all, configuration we'll see in regular classes. Don't worry. So guys, any doubts till now?
Instead of maintaining the versions in Nexus, can't we maintain in GitHub?
Again, in GitHub also, good question. So in GitHub also you can maintain, but the thing is, in general, only the tracking kind of, maybe if you keep on changing something in a single file, in set of files, so those kind of files you'll maintain here. Again, Nexus is very secure when compared to GitHub. It's kind of a locker. It has set of, again, more security. That is the reason you are storing in Nexus. When compared to GitHub or maybe these servers, you have more security in these only. So that is the reason you are maintaining. Again, let's assume that I got one maybe my land papers. Maybe I have some ornaments. In my home also I can save it. Maybe in my home bureau and all I can save. Right? I can place it. But why I am placing it in my lockers in banking? Because bank is more secure, right? The same concept. Here also, your applications, your whatever the applications you are building, okay, so Nexus is more secure. It has the more security. Over the network, you can again get it this application from anywhere and to anywhere. That is the reason. Okay.
Thank you.
Is it clear? Are you clarified? Any
Yes.
doubts?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Yes, Deb. What is it? Maven is a server. Yes, Maven is an application, guys. On top of operating system, you have to install it. Again, it's a developer tool. It is called as build tool. So most probably developer use this first. But the basics, you have to know that. The basics of Maven I will cover. What is Maven? How to install? How to integrate? What are the life cycles of Maven? Those things I will explain. Maybe 1 or 2 classes. Not more than that. It's not our tool. Next. So guys, are you clarified in terms of tools, guys, now? So definitely you may have like maybe the installation part, everything, configuration and all we'll see in later classes. As of now, it's not required. Only the overview I given. The next thing is, guys, I'm proceeding. Okay. The next thing is documentation part. So I have one Google Drive, guys. Okay. So maybe organizer will provide the access to this Google Drive to everybody who are enrolled. So huge documentation is here. The setup documentation, guys. Let's go to AWS. So if you see the setup documentation, so many again how to set up, how to use different services, and apart from that, this is my DevOps class notes, running notes, guys. Okay, so different running notes are available here. You no need to write down the running notes also. It's up to you. And apart from that, you can see the interview questions, guys. See, all are interview questions. Maybe in terms of DevOps, different topics. See, these are interview questions. So everybody will get access to these documents, guys. Okay, so and resumes also. Resumes also, I already have sample resumes, so you'll get access to all those things also. This is what documentation part, guys. These are the sample resumes. Okay, you can pick it and prepare your own resumes after the course. So yeah, so that's it, guys. I'm done from my end. My agenda is done. So this is a overview about DevOps and the tools I'm going to cover, and the documentation part. So now it's your turn, guys. If you have any questions, you can ask me. So otherwise, again, we can jump, so we can wind up and let's meet tomorrow at same time. 6 p.m. IST. So first of all, I'll start with DevOps. Prerequisites only, guys. Okay, so prerequisites means those AWS account creation and Linux basics, guys. Linux is must and should for DevOps. So I'll start with DevOps on Linux only first. First 1 week will be Linux only, guys. So then after only DevOps. And how much you are comfortable with Linux, that much you will be comfortable with Linux, guys. Sorry, DevOps. So please make sure that, guys. So can you share the course modules? Yes. So definitely I'll share the contents also. Maybe you can check with your organizer. I'll talk to your organizer. Okay. Yes. Anything else, guys? Again, guys, our class should be always interactive. Okay, you have to talk. So try to speak, guys, instead of chatting. That is the better way. So that you will get more knowledge, confident, guys, first of all. And one more thing, guys. So please log in from laptop only. Don't log in from mobile. Please avoid it. You can join from mobile also, but please avoid it. Always join from laptop so that you can share your screen and you can follow my instructions. Okay, so guys, in our class, I'll most of the times I'll ask student to share the screen. So you'll get a confident also, guys, while sharing. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, guys. Someone said something.
Yeah, I had
So
a
anything?
question. I
Yes,
had a
tell me.
question. What kind of jobs do we get like after doing this course? Like as a, I have no idea about it. Like entry level jobs or like with the 1 year, 2 years. What are the
Oh,
requirements?
okay, good question. Simply listening class won't help you. Okay, so definitely you have to be up to date whatever we are discussing in class. Okay, after that, for each tool, I'll give you the tasks also. What we do in real time. For each tool, I'll give the task. You have to complete those tasks also by doing R&D. Then only you'll get at least 2 to 3 years of experience. Not entry level, but definitely if you follow my instructions, if you complete all the tasks up to date, if you follow my classes up to date, so definitely you will get 2 to 3 years of real-time experience. That is my promise. But it depends on you also. Simply listening won't help you at all. Even if you miss single class also, the next class will be again question mark, right? So always, please, you have to follow the recordings. You'll get the recordings also every class. Okay, you have to follow the recordings and you have to complete your tasks, complete your question, maybe again this class topics. So definitely you can make it 2 to 3 years of experience. That is my challenge.
Also, how
But
many days are you going to cover on AWS? Creating the AWS account, creating the servers on the AWS.
first Linux will be 1 week. Okay, so hardly creating server, how many days it will take? Or hardly 1 day. So tomorrow
I mean,
I'll show you.
for the beginners, it would take a while. You understand.
But AWS is very easy. Don't worry, guys. It's like how you are using applications in Windows. Even someone doesn't know anything about application also, simply we can open the application, we can install, we can open the application, we can do R&D, right? So AWS is also kind of that one. Very easy, guys. Okay, don't worry. That is my again challenge. It's not a big deal. Okay, that is my headache.
So will
So
you
definitely
help us
understand
will you help us
within 1 2 days. I'm sorry.
with the installation? You'll be online with us, or do we need to do all the installation in the home by ourselves? Or will you on the class you will instruct how to do all the installation and all the
In the class itself. In the class itself, guys, everything will be installed in class itself. But after the installation, after the setup, some scenarios I will give. Okay, so based on our class, once you get maybe familiar, once you are familiar with our tools, on that particular tool, I'll give the tasks. So you have to complete those tasks. That is homework again. Okay, but installation, everything I'll show here itself in our class itself. But you have to log in. Everybody, please log in with your laptop, guys. So please make sure that don't log in from mobile until unless something you're outside. Okay, maybe until unless you have some problem with your laptop. Please make sure that you logged in from mobile also or laptop only. Yeah.
What is the
Next.
system requirement? System requirement for all this
The
setup?
basic is enough. Like maybe the basic laptop. Nothing you will install nothing in your laptop, guys. Hardly one application. The application called Footy and some browser. That's it. Okay, nothing. You won't consume anything from your laptop. Everything you will consume it from AWS data center only. So remotely you are connecting to AWS data center. Their hardware will be there. There only you are installing operating system. There on top of those operating system only you are installing your applications and all. So don't worry about your laptop. Basic, even 4 GB. So how you are working with other applications in your laptop? Maybe opening notes, maybe using Skype, using GoToMeeting, same concept. So Putty, the Putty is one of the application to connect to those remote server, and one browser is enough. Nothing from your laptop. Okay, it won't consume much.
Will
In
there
real
be
time also, yeah. So in real time also, you won't install anything in your laptop, guys. Everything on top of those machines only. You will connect from your laptop to those machines. Maybe it might be your own data center, or it might be your own again AWS data centers. You'll connect remotely only. You won't go to data center and connect the servers directly. From your laptop, you will connect to those servers. Yeah. Go ahead. You are saying something?
yeah, just wondering if there will be any final project with the end-to-end pipelines kind of thing with the components
Yes.
that we
Yes, definitely it will be there.
uh,
In between also tasks given. That's what the real time task I'm going to give, guys. What we do in real time in our projects, those tasks only. With Ansible, what I will do, so that task only I'm going to give it to you. So definitely, guys, I need your cooperation to complete the task. Then only you will get the again knowledge, guys. Don't miss any classes. Don't miss any again tasks. Always up to date, please. Okay, so definitely we'll get the enough. That is my challenge, my promise. Please cooperate with me and complete your course. Yeah. Next.
Will you
Anything
teach
else?
us Linux? Yes, I have a
Yes,
question.
yes, Linux
Will you
only
teach
first.
us? No, we should have the basic knowledge, or will you teach us Linux from basics?
From basics only. Don't worry. Even if you don't know nothing, also you can understand what is Linux, how to log in, how to install, okay, how to run the basic commands. Everything I will teach. Don't worry. It will be first 1 week Linux only. Then after other tools. Okay.
Yeah, I have another question.
Yes.
As you said, Jenkins will be used in not only on development environment, it is also used on production environment, right? So what
Yes, you're
about the
right.
other DevOps tools like Docker, Ansible, and Kubernetes? Are we using it
Yes.
only on development environment, or?
No. Anywhere. So I explained the purpose. So if that purpose is available, maybe again let's assume that in testing environment also you need operating systems, right? So these operating systems directly, I need 1,000 servers. Just assume maybe 500 QA servers. So I no need to build a 500 AWS servers. Hardly I'll go with 50 AWS servers. On top of it, by using Docker, I can install the operating system. So I can, so logically you're building 500 servers, but physically you have only 50 servers. So Docker, if that purpose is there, definitely you go with Docker also here. Okay, so everywhere, not only in development guys. So just I given some scenario. So how exactly our DevOps tools will be used. Yeah. So is your doubt clarified now?
Yes.
Yeah. So next, anything else, guys? Is it okay then, guys? I hope everybody is good now, and if everybody is good, let's wind up the call and meet tomorrow, same time, 6 p.m. IST.
Okay, sir.
Okay, guys?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, guys. Keep your, sorry, this one. Tomorrow, guys, I'm going to show you AWS account creation. For that purpose, you need your debit card or credit card details. Okay, keep it ready with you. So I'll show you tomorrow. It's a free account only. You won't be charged anything, guys. But you need that information. Okay, then only you can create that account. You hardly 2 rupees will be deducted from your account. That is for verification purpose, and that too you will be refunded again. That is also. So AWS website. You have to log into that AWS website. You have to create an account. Okay. So I'll show you tomorrow class, guys. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much, guys, for your participation. We'll meet again tomorrow, same time. Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Bye. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, guys.